thanks everybody for joining us for the second Fostering Recruitment Hub webinar. This one is about making most of face-to-face information events. Obviously, a lot of services have started going back to face-to-face information events, or having a hybrid model with online events as well, or are thinking about doing so in the new year. So this is basically all the advice and sort of expertise that's come from a lot of authorities. It's what's worked at different authorities and that we want to share with you today. So a little bit about the Recruitment Hub, if you've not been before. This is a place for us to share best practice and benchmark activities, which is really important. If you're doing something and you're thinking it's working or it's not working, it's really good to compare with other authorities to see what is and isn't working. And part of that, we're going to be doing regular webinars like this one, sharing information, innovation, successes, and so on. The aim of the hub is to increase the number of carers across the country, so every authority sees a big increase in the number of carers that they're getting, and also reduce the costs, the marketing costs of getting those carers in by sharing knowledge, best practice, etc. The hub's only for councils and council-owned organisations such as trusts and council-owned IFAs and things like that. So a little bit about us. I work for Westco, which is a not-for-profit that's owned by Westminster Council, and we provide marketing services to local authorities all over the country. Prior to that, I've worked at recruiting foster carers at Leicestershire, Nottingham City, and also Birmingham Children's Trust. And John Paul, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and CAN?
Hello, yes, I'm John Paul from CAN. We're an agency that helps lots of councils use ad tech and do media buying a lot better. We've run about over 60 foster care recruitment campaigns, and so I'm hoping to apply all that we've learnt in the hub to reduce cost per approval and also make the business case for more investment.
Brilliant, thanks for that. So this session is about face-to-face information events. It's not about drop-ins, it's about the kind of traditional events where you're giving a lot of information about the nuts and bolts of fostering to, you know, what could be a fairly large audience. And the aim ultimately is to get more people attending the events and get more of them to take the next step, which for a lot of places would be, you know, book an initial visit or actually apply. Okay, so as with everything we do at Westco when we're looking at fostering recruitment, always put yourself in the shoes of an inquirer. Assume that they might know nothing about fostering or indeed your service or anything like that. So everything you do that needs to face the inquirer has to be geared up to make things as easy and understandable as possible. So before the event, basics really, where's it going to be held? What day of the week is it going to be on? What time is it going to be on? So if you look at the where, is it easy to get to? We've got to make everything as simple as possible for anyone that's inquiring. So is it easy to park there? Is it easy to get to by public transport? Is the venue well known? You know, is it a hotel somewhere that, oh yeah, I know what that is? Or is it kind of an obscure council building that's like tucked away from something like that? They're all things to consider about when you're saying, yeah, we're going to hold it here because it's easy for people to get to. People know where it is. Also think about the area as well. If you're a small unitary, you might only really need to hold it within like the town hall or the council house or whatever. But even if you don't, if you're a large shire, it makes sense to sort of move around the towns and cities that are covered in your area. Don't be worried about not holding events in areas where you don't need carers. I know a lot of shires have to sort of move around, you know, in a circle around the areas, and half the places they go to, they don't really need carers from. I would say avoid those. Just keep holding events in areas where you need carers, and you'll get more carers ultimately in the areas that you need them. Also, is it COVID safe? You know, is it easy to kind of distance and that kind of thing? All these things that people worried about, need to reassure them. The day of the week is really important. It's something that gets overlooked, I think, and a lot of people that I've spoken to about this have said the same sort of thing. Like, if you always have it on a Wednesday or a Tuesday or whenever, there's a lot of people that have a commitment on one night of the week. It might be like the scout leader or something like that, and they really want to come to an information event, but they can't because they've always have that commitment every Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever it is. So the best thing to do is kind of rotate, like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if somebody can't come on whatever night of the week it is the following month, oh well, yeah, I am free on Thursday, so I'll come then. And be wary of holding them like on a regular date, like second Wednesday of every month, because that can clash with stuff. Like one of them we did was clash with Valentine's Day, which was a bit poor because a lot of people obviously had other things on their mind on Valentine's Day. And school holidays as well. If it's always kind of like the second Wednesday of every month or whatever, if that falls in Easter week or other holidays, May bank holiday or whatever it happens to be, you'll find a lot of people will be away, and it's kind of waste. Whereas if you held it the week after or the week before, you probably would have got a lot more people there. So that's something to really bear in mind. Don't feel as if you always have to stick to a certain day, a certain time. It doesn't always have to be once a month. In busy times of year, like January, February, September, October, you might want to hold them every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks, depending on how big the audience is you're expecting. The more events you hold, the more chance you've got of people actually coming to them. Okay, so the time of day or night is important. A lot of places will typically have them on a weekday night. It's worth looking at Saturdays, Saturday mornings, Saturday afternoons, see if you think you'll get people coming then as well. But in general, the biggest attendances tend to be on a weekday evening. Now, too early, I would say something like 5 o'clock, 5:30 for the start. Too late is probably 7 o'clock onwards. The ideal time, I think, for most places would be about 6:30 start. And something to bear in mind is if somebody turns up a bit later than that, are the doors kind of bolted and locked?
Oh, no,
or do you have somebody there who can let them in and join the meeting if they do turn up late? Okay. So to create awareness of the event itself, again, it's great putting an event on, but you've got to let people know where it is and when it is and everything like that. And again, that's something that can sometimes be overlooked because you're in a routine of doing it and so on. If you do nothing else, have the events listed prominently on your web pages, on your fostering web pages, ideally on the fostering homepage, or if you've got a microsite, the homepage of the microsite. So if somebody's interested in fostering, they land on your page, bang, one of the first things they'll see is, yeah, there's an event. Oh, okay, yeah, I can go to that, and you get them hooked in straight away. Another good way of advertising the event is a Facebook event post. Create it specifically as an event post, because that means that you've got extra facilities within that, rather than just a general Facebook post. The event post has, you can put more details in about the venue and that sort of thing. It's really worth boosting it, even as little as sort of 50 quid. You can reach a massive audience with that, and get more people there, and get as many shares as you can. The first thing to do is get as many staff to share it as possible, foster carers to share it as much as possible, and then think about any other organisations that will get to sort of harder to reach places where an endorsement from that organisation would be really good. So you can start at like really basic level, like NHS, fire service, police service, housing. And then if you think of like charities and stuff like that, where you're likely to have people that will be in the sort of frame of mind to foster, like Refugee Forum, LGBT plus organisations, those sort of that, make friends with these people, and just email them and say, oh, we've got an event coming up next month. Please, can you share our Facebook post with a link? And very, very few people will say no. Most people will want to get behind it. And before you know it, you're going to get dozens and dozens of shares, which then hopefully will reach lots and lots of more people. You should have a contact list that you can email. And this is basically anybody that's inquired about fostering, but not really taken it any further. If you keep them on a list, and then every month or however often you hold an event, a couple of weeks prior to the event or whenever it's booked, email them, just let them know, and just have that as a routine, regular thing that you do. Because those people who, when they're ready to take the next step, they will get the email and they'll go, yeah, actually, I will go to that one this month. So that's something to do, just constantly remarketing to these people just by simply emailing them. Posters and flyers are useful. It's worth putting up to save the effort of having got like a flyer or a poster that's got 6 months worth of events, or even a year's worth of events if you book them that far in advance. Put them up in as many places as you can that'll take them. Always remember where they are though, so that when you have to renew them, you can go and remove them and replace them with new ones. And then if you can get any PR for it in local press, do so. It's worth pursuing. Some of them will do a little free article for you if they're desperate for column space. So yeah, this is all kind of very low cost, free stuff that you can do that will drive people to attending. Okay. When you're giving information about the information event, A lot of people still have preconceptions about councils that are going to be stuffy and really formal and really judgmental and all these kinds of things. So one phrase that's really good to shoehorn into the things as often as you can is friendly fostering team. And if you've got photos of the team looking all smiley and thumbs up and waving and stuff, it really helps to break down a barrier. If somebody's thinking, oh, I might want to go to that fostering event, but I don't, what are the people going to be like? You know, they're going to be there in suits and kind of looking down the nose at me and stuff. And if they see people just looking normal and waving and smiling, it really will think, oh, actually, yeah, they do look friendly. They do look approachable. I will go to that event. Another phrase that's really good to include is hear from and chat with foster carers. Whenever you speak to people that have been to events, one of the first things they'll say is it was really good listening to the foster carer and then having a chat with them. That's what they really, really value. I've never fostered before. So I can talk about fostering all night if I want to, but I've not had those experiences that I can share with people. Whereas the foster care is obviously doing that. So it really sort of emphasised the fact that you're going to have foster carers there. Clear date and time and venue detail. It might sound basic, but I've seen loads and loads of things where it's almost secondary, where you have to kind of hunt, oh, well, where is it, when is it, what time does it start? Make that up front as you can, just so that there's no confusion there. And then reassure people re-COVID, you know, if you've got, you know, hand sanitizers, you can be distanced, all these things that'll reassure people into thinking they might want to come along. Also, include a map of where to get to, even if it's a well-known building. Still do this. If there's somebody traveling from outside the area or whatever, it just reassures people that, yeah, they know where they're going. On your web page, if you can embed a Google map that's got the venue on there as well, so people can actually dynamically move it about and see, oh, if I'm approaching from that direction, oh, there's a car park, and then it's a short walk or whatever. What some councils will have events where it's invite only, and some will have it where it's open to attend. Invite only is a bit of a hurdle in that you've got to get people to really commit to sort of getting in touch with you first to then sort of give you some information, and that puts a lot of people off, particularly if you're using something like Eventbrite for people to register through. I can fully understand the reasons why you want to be careful about like who attends the events and everything like that. Although in my experience of holding dozens and dozens and dozens of information events, I've never had anybody come to the event that's been a risk. Or anything untoward happening like that. It makes sense to risk assess the venue for security. If you've got a security card on there, then that's kind of going to deter anyone that's going to want to cause any disruption who hasn't registered or whatever. So my advice and what's worked at a lot of other places as well is just have the event open so anybody can come along without having to register or whatever, but have a mechanism to indicate the intent first. And the phrase that you use going back onto the map is you don't have to book onto the event, but it really helps if we know that you're coming. And a lot of people will send the email, give you a call, fill in the bit on the web form or whatever it happens to be, just to let you know you're coming so you can anticipate what sort of numbers you're looking at. So again, keep yourself in the shoes of the inquirer. When they actually comes to the event, you know, they might have got parked really easily or got the bus there really easily. But is it easy to find the entrance to the building? Even if you're in a hotel, that's well known and everything like that, there might be a couple of different entrances. It's like, oh, is it this way, is it that way? Make sure you provide that information, or if you've got signposts or banners or anything like that to sort of guide people in, or you can have staff there that will be able to sort of greet people as they're coming in and signpost, oh yeah, we're in that room there, that kind of thing. And it might sound daft, but make sure everyone knows where the toilet is. If someone's been traveling and driving on the bus or whatever, and might be a bit nervous as well. So using the toilet is a really important thing. Just let them know as soon as they arrive, oh yeah, tea and coffee there kind of thing, there's the toilets. And it'll just put them at ease. So when you, like I mentioned about the staff, always have a member of staff there to sort of greet and put them at ease, make sure they're friendly, hi, thanks for coming, all that kind of thing. And whichever staff's there, including carers and anyone else, a really simple thing is to have everybody with the badge on, because if you are having an event at a hotel or at the council house where there might be loads of other things going on and people are thinking, oh, who's fostering staff or whatever, just have a badge made up like that. So it's really easy to identify someone who's there for the fostering event. Refreshments really important as well, tea, coffee, make sure you've got like non-dairy milk, you know, soya milk and that kind of thing. Biscuits really important as well. Again, if somebody's traveling, if they come straight from work, it's just nice to get a tea and a biscuit or a drink of juice or water or that kind of thing. Just makes them feel welcome and at ease. Give them a welcome pack when they come in as well. Talk a little bit more about that later. And then also, as people come in, that's the perfect time to get their details. Now, this is a simple form. If you can use an iPad or a tablet or something like that with a simple electronic form that you can type into. But this is just a paper form that I can share with you if you want to copy this. Just ask for the basic stuff. There's a little couple of additional things on there that might be useful, like speaking of languages other than English. And then also just ask for whoever else lives in the home. This is useful if you book an initial visit and it gives you a little bit what to expect when you go to that home. So again, keep yourself in the shoes of the enquirers when it comes to the actual event itself. And it might sound daft, but when you start with the presentation, start with the end in that. Tell them, thanks for coming to the event. After the event, this is the next step. I book onto an information event or whatever the next step will be, and let them know that they can stop and chat. When the presentation's over, you can grab me or a carer or whoever else to chat about, any questions that you might have about your personal circumstances and that sort of thing. And make sure in the information pack you put the application forms in there. So you're planting the seed already of like someone's coming to the event and it's like, we really want you to apply for fostering. We're going to make it as easy to apply as possible because the forms are there already. You don't have to kind of request them and have them posted out or whatever. They're there ready to go. So when you present in the presentation, get foster carers doing as much talking as possible. So obviously you'll have the content and whatever you're talking through, like it might be like training or something like that. And you can refer to a foster care, say, right, what training have you done? What's your experience of it? Let the carers tell the stories. If you can get to know their funny little anecdotes and their amusing little things or little kind of heartwarming stories, and tee them up if you can. So because they might forget, they might be really enthusiastic talking about training and you say, oh yeah, remember that time when you did whatever course, whatever, and then you can get them telling their stories rather than just having a member of staff talking. It's great if you've got a range of carers there with different levels of experience and from different backgrounds, single carers, older carers, younger carers. And the most powerful voice you can have at an information event is a young person or a care leaver. It's not always easy to persuade them to come along and sort of say the right things that you want them to say. But if you every sort of authority will have at least one or two young people or care leavers who are really positive about the service. They understand what kind of people need to know and how to say it and stuff like that. I've worked with some amazing young people that are just absolutely brilliant at getting their point across. And it really opens eyes for people to foster older children as well. If you've got a 16, 17, 18-year-old sat there who's kind of articulate and sort of, succeeding and is really positive about fostering and that sort of thing, people think, well, actually, maybe I could foster an older child as well, rather than the comfort zone of sort of younger kids, which tends to be what most people go for. So make it emotional. There's no point just providing people's information. Like I say, try and get carers telling their stories that will make people laugh, make people cry in a heartwarming way, not a sort of tragic way. Be honest about the challenges that fostering brings as well. You don't want to sort of rose tint everything. You need to make people aware of, it will be tough, but always couch it with a positive. It's always the most challenging thing you'll do, but it's also the most rewarding. Sell the service as well. I'll come on to that a bit, but again, don't just provide information. If you are talking about something like training or whatever, just say it's really good training because X, Y, Z, and tell them they're going to make good foster carers as well. What I would always do at the start of the thing is say, oh, thanks everybody for coming, and talk about what sort of percentage of people in the audience will actually be going on to foster in, say, 6 months' time or a year's time. I would always say something like about a quarter of you will be fostering within, 6 months. You'll be looking after kids. And then in another year's time, about another quarter of you will be fostering and looking after kids. And it really, again, plants a seed in their mind that they're going to foster for you and it's actually going to happen. With other staff, I've talked obviously about foster carers and then recruitment staff. I know a lot of services will have a social worker or two sort of rotated in to cover the information event. The analogy I always use for this, where staff are kind of like forced into doing something, is the grumpy chef. I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant that's short-staffed and the chef has to sort of greet people, sometimes take their order. And they're a bit unhappy about it because their job is they see it as just to cook the food. Whereas the maitre d' there who's happy and smiling, and that's their job to do all that sort of thing, should be doing that job. Make sure whichever staff are on the event, make sure they're actually happy to be there and they want to be there, that they're passionate and positive about fostering. Don't have that enforced rota where every single social worker in the team has to take a turn, because I've been on a couple of information events where you can really tell the social worker doesn't want to be there. They're a bit negative, they're a bit tired, they're a bit like, and it shines through really badly, and can put people off. And another thing as well, if you've got, well, it applies to any staff really, and carers as well, don't use jargon. Any language you use, it's so easy for us to slip into things, saying things like attachment disorder and CAMS and fetal alcohol syndrome and all these other things that are everyday words and language we use in fostering. Just put yourself in the shoes of the inquirers, assume that they have no knowledge of any of this sort of language. And if so, you know, if somebody does say something, make sure you'll say CAMS, oh yeah, that stands for whatever, or attachment disorder is this, just so people aren't kind of confused and feeling a bit kind of stupid or whatever. Like I said earlier, you need to sell the service. Always make sure you're talking about the advantages of fostering for yourself, what the disadvantages of going to an IFA is. Chances are a lot of people will be aware of IFAs. They might have been to an IFA information event, they'll have researched them, so they know they're out there. There's no point trying to ignore that they don't exist, but don't be frightened to stick the boot in on them, I would say. The website that we've set up, fosterwithyourcouncil.uk, is an ideal place to start. It just basically lists all the reasons why you should foster with a council instead of an IFA. Just incorporate some of them into your presentation. In an ideal world, you'll have a carer there that used to foster for an IFA and is transferred to the council, and they say it's loads better. You can't get a better endorsement than that. Emphasise the rewards of fostering. If you're lucky enough to be an authority that competes financially with IFAs, brilliant. Most councils can't, so you have to make sure, yeah, you know, you're not doing it for the money, you're doing it for the rewards and everything else, all those other benefits of doing it for council rather than IFA. And tell them that you want them to foster for you. Just, you know, say, thanks for coming, we're really glad you're here, we really want you to foster for us. It's dead easy to kind of ignore that bit, but as long as people get that message, they're much more likely to want to take the next step with you. Content, when it comes to actually the slides and everything like that, don't be afraid to use lots of slides. There's nothing worse than a slide that's got like loads of text on, that doesn't flip over for 5-10 minutes. If you've got loads of slides, just keep ticking them over, and it keeps people's attention. Use loads of images as well on each slide just to illustrate your point. Really helps. Mix it up a bit. Keep the audience kind of awake by, you know, raising the hand sort of thing, that, you know, how many people think this about, you know, this law or whatever it happens to be, just to get them kind of thinking and getting involved really. If you've got videos, short videos, play them as well. If you've got videos of carers talking or young people, care leavers talking, it's really good to include them just to sort of break the flow a bit. And then change which staff are doing the talking as well. If you've got a member of staff there who's like can talk about the training because they're the training officer or something like that, or assessing social worker talking a little bit about the assessment, get them to do it, and it just keeps it relevant, because you know your information, like, could last for over an hour. Somebody's sitting there absorbing information, so you want to keep it as mixed as possible. And then obviously, like I say, at the end, you want them to stay and chat with you. You want them to get hooked in. Make sure the kettle's boiled, so you know when you're offering drinks, simple thing, you know, they're not hanging around waiting for the kettle. There's actually, oh yeah, there's a hot drink there. Make sure if they want to go off in little private areas, there's enough sort of room or even separate rooms where they can go and have a chat with someone to talk about the person's circumstances. And yeah, it just makes it easier for people to stick around and then actually take the next step. And like I said, try and get them onto initial visit booking if that is your next step. And strike while the iron's hot. Have your list of visit slots you've got available there. It's a bit blurry, but that basically is a list of dates and times and who's available at what date and time on what date, so you can literally book someone in. Obviously, you captured everyone's details as they come in with their address on and everything on the form, so it's literally just a case of putting someone's name down. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, we'll see you next Thursday, whenever it is. and you've got that book and you're not having to follow them up the next day and try and get hold of them and fail and stuff like that. If you can as well, it's really good to evaluate the event. Just a really simple questionnaire. Make it A5 rather than A4, because more people are inclined to fill in an A5 sheet of paper, and just have like a few little questions, scored 1 to 10, 1 being lowest, 10 being highest, and then a little space for comments. Let it be anonymous as well. What we used to do is have a box with a slot cut in it, like a little post box thing, so people could fill that in dead quick, you know, tick, 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 stick it in the box, and then you can work out, you know, what, ask about the venue, ask about the content, ask about the presentation, all these things. And then if you are sort of lacking in a certain area, then you can do stuff to improve it. And then follow everything up. Make sure that the first job the following morning, as soon as you come in, everybody that's booked a visit, email them, or if you use a text system to sort of for the bookings and stuff like that, say, yeah, this is who's coming at what time, any questions or whatever, come back to us, that kind of thing. Those people that weren't able to book a visit, email them and say, thanks for coming. If you want a visit, these times are available. And then you sort of starting at the beginning again, stick a Facebook post up saying, we had our event last night, thanks everyone for coming, even if only like 2 or 3 people came, give the impression that it was really popular, and then link it to the next event which you've already created, and then the whole cycle starts again. So that's it in a nutshell. Is there any questions in the chat at all, John Paul?
I'm just taking a quick look for you. No, not at the moment.
Great. Well, if anybody does have any questions, obviously just pop them in the chat. I'll just talk now a bit more about the Fostering Recruitment Hub and what we do. Obviously, you know about the webinars because you're attending one now. They'll be held roughly every 3 weeks, and they'll talk about a different topic related to recruitment. The next one is going to be on the importance of remarketing, and we've got other ones planned for in the new year.
Can I just, sorry, a lot of questions have just popped in. Should we deal with them
Right,
before
okay,
we move on? Yeah. We've got, would you give out an application form at an event without visiting first?
Yeah, because obviously you don't have to take the application, but what I found was giving the application form out and say, okay, I'll see you in a couple of days' time. If somebody's really serious about applying to Foster, they will fill the application form in. When you go on the visit, we'll give you the paperwork, and it's kind of, you can scan through it and see the information that's there rather than having to sort of tease it out of them. And you often get a talking point in the application form, like something to do with the work experience or the kids or whatever it happens to be. And it like I say, you're not obliged to start everybody that applies, but it's just a good test of commitment, and also it makes it easier and quicker for them to actually get started in the process and not go with an IFA, because IFAs will try and sign people up on a visit as well.
Fine. There's a similar question, but would you book them would you book a visit without knowing if they've got spare room, meeting a range of recruitment criteria?
That varies, but I've visited loads of people who didn't have a spare room, but they were going to have a spare room at some point in the near future. They're having building work done, or they're waiting for their son to move out, or whatever it happened to be. But in order to, rather than just say, no, come back, I would make the point of doing the visit and finding out about and selling the service to them, so that, when that room did become available, they'll come back to us, and they always did. Like I say, they might have had visits from IFAs or conversations with IFAs would go out there as well. So you need to do what they're doing.
There's a question as well about, in terms of, I think, planning the frequency of events. Would you go for more often with fewer people, so kind of quality of interaction, or spread out more to have, more, as you were saying, foster carers and maybe young people talking there? How do you strike that balance?
It depends on your area, I suppose, and what resources you've got. If you've got enough resources and everything to do loads of events all over the place, then do them. If you pushed for resources, try and pick the areas that you need carers in the venues that tend to get better attendance. Like I say, in an ideal world, you'd be able to have one every week, somewhere different within your area. But it may be that you've only got the resources to do one a month. So just do whatever's going to be easiest and most relevant to you, really.
Very good. And this is one for the whole group. If anyone's got an information event presentation that they use, the team at Thurrock would like to have a look because they feel theirs is a little drab and could do with livening up. So yes, if anyone has one that they're particularly proud of or just renovated, please send across to the email address in the chat now. And maybe John, if you've come across some good ones, that'd be good too.
Yeah, that's something we can help with is content production of anything like that. So yeah, I'm more than happy to help with that.
And can you see there's a question now about, the online Zoom or Teams events have been working really well, really low barriers to attendance. Is there any real reason to return to face-to-face? And I would add to that, has anyone looked at sort of hybrid events where you do a mixture of online attendance and in person?
I would say do both. There are people that are really, really happy with online, and online works really well because, yeah, you don't have to travel somewhere and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of people out there who still really value that face-to-face stuff and being able to meet face-to-face and so on. So yeah, I would say don't stop doing online events, like keep online events going, but also do face-to-face events as well. At the moment, a lot of people are still reluctant to go out and about, which is understandable. Fingers crossed, the worst of COVID is behind us. And like I say, from next year onwards, hopefully, we will see a lot more sort of normality ensuing. And I think more and more people will want to come to more physical events.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Brian. There's one presentation going over to Thurrock to help them out.
Brilliant. That's what we like, sharing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point of this hub. We're asking, can you please circulate any best practice content for online events, such as videos you found that are highly emotive or other assets that can be used to share when we've worked elsewhere? So yeah, anything that makes an online event really, I mean, I guess what you're trying to do with online is get similar impact to in person, which is hard. But yeah, no, that's really, so yes, anyone, Martin, can share with Martin some tactics, some neat videos of things that have really worked well. Lee is asking, if anyone's got back to face-to-face, what are the numbers like? How do they compare to sort of pre-lockdown, pre-COVID numbers? Has anyone got the experience of that? If you have, just bang it in the chat. Oh yes, and thanks. Martin's now put his email in the group as well to share on that front.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. So yeah, I'll just, like I say, talk a little bit more about the Fostering Recruitment Hub and what we're actually doing. Obviously, there's webinars. The fosterwithyourcouncil.uk website, as I mentioned earlier, that's got loads of advantages on why you should foster with your council, and it also goes down the route of telling the truth about the finances behind IFAs that we know a lot of councils can't do. So if you link that your fostering pages to that website or send people there, they can see for themselves, yeah, actually IFAs do make a lot of money. Yeah, if you foster for an IFA, you'll be waiting a long time between placements and everything else. And that site's out there now, it's free to link to, so yeah, make the most of that. We also developed an inquiry contact form for websites, which makes it easy for people to make contact and request whatever they want from you. And we covered that in the last webinar, which is available to watch if you haven't seen that one already. And perhaps the most important thing is benchmarking campaigns. So with other authorities, you can see what kind of activity generates inquiries that then go on to lead to approvals. It's going to vary in different parts of the country, what works, what doesn't. But it's really important to see, yeah, these authorities are doing this activity and then it's been really successful for them.
I've just seen Prue say that they've had a professional film made about 14 minutes long, which they show before presentations. That sounds really interesting. I don't know if Prue would be happy to share that with the hub, make it a piece of content that we can put on there so other people can borrow the idea at least and take good things from it.
Yeah, fantastic.
We'll follow up after that. There's a lot of interest in the presentations. Password protected, so we share. Yes. So Rachel, you're asking password protected area of the site. So on the Westco campaign hub in the fostering section, if you register in there, we'll do a proper follow up after this, and send you the link. And then in there there'll be the recordings of these events, all of the resources we're giving away, and anything that the hub wants to share with each other, again, we can put in there. So if you've got something you're particularly proud of, send it to John, and we'll get it uploaded. So yes, we'll send a link round after this, and just make sure that you're all registered in there for going forward. Is there anything?
I've just seen Rachel's put in the chat there. If you're not on it already, there's a closed Facebook group that's only for councils and trusts and council companies. That is really, really useful. There's over 200 people on there who work in fostering recruitment for councils, and it's really massive source of information. So well, what we'll do is I'll email everybody the link after this, with a link to that group. And then, yeah, if you're not on there already, join it, and that's a great place where people sharing stuff as well. So yeah, a little bit more about the kind of things that we do. One thing that a lot of people struggle with is the imagery for memes and campaigns and brochures and all that sort of thing. So what we've set up this month is a couple of photo shoots of ordinary looking people who aren't American, and they're going to be set in homes and back gardens and parks and that sort of thing in Britain, where you can buy a bank of images to use on your marketing collateral. We also offer audits of the applicant journey. It's one thing to do a load of really good work to get loads and loads of inquiries in, only for them to sort of drop through the cracks, because you can't service those inquiries very well, or you can't start the assessment very well, like very quickly after they've come in. So that's one thing we do, is end to end. So basically from the point of somebody wanting to get in touch with you to make an inquiry, all the way through to panel and ADM, and every little step in between, that could be a weak point where somebody could drop out or kind of have second thoughts or whatever. We can go through the whole thing, and then make recommendations about what areas can be strengthened. Oh, sorry, gone too fast. Yeah, I mentioned about content production as well. Oh, sorry, fostering campaign delivery. Yeah, again, if you're struggling for resources, if you're struggling for time, that sort of thing, we can deliver a whole fostering campaign, whether preferably digitally, but we can also do out of home stuff as well. And then content production, so things like an information event presentation, we can work with you to sort of come up with, for your area, what your needs of your service are. Brochures, web content, social media content, anything like that, we can help you with. Talk a little bit more about the photo shoots as well, for the image library. Like I say, we're doing them in November, with a diverse range of children and carers, and there are lots of different types of people. We'll show you authentic images of people. And what we'll find is, when you put an image out there, if it's somebody that is like, they're like me, or that child is like my children, they're much more likely to make a connection with you, rather than, like I say, the typical like American image library stuff. And to take it one step further, these are images that have been localized using sportswear. So you've got a little boy there with a Leicester City top on, and a couple of girls there that are wearing Nottingham Panthers ice hockey tops. And instantly you've got a local connection there. So even though the photo shoot's taking place in Nottingham, in like say like houses, back gardens, parks, whatever, if you've got a child there that's wearing like a Leeds United cap, or a Cambridge United shirt, or whoever it happens to be, you can still use that on your adverts, and people think, oh, that's a little lad that supports Cambridge United or Leeds United or Leicester Tigers rugby team, or whatever it happens to be. We're only able to do a limited number of the sort of the localized shots with the sportswear. If you're interested in doing that, please drop me an email, so that you definitely will get it done. And then basically I'll just give you an address to send some of the sportswear to, so all the normal people that are taking part in the photo shoot can just sort of do a quick costume change, and then you'll end up with a good bank of images that look as if they've been shot in your area, to really make that connection with people that are seeing your adverts. Okay, is there any more questions come through on the chat, John Paul?
No, not yet.
All right, I've just noticed that Rachel Brown's put on there that people yeah, they must answer the joining questions, or they don't let them into the Facebook group. We don't want any IFAs in there, because we have had a couple of spies in there in the past, I think. So you have to prove which authority you work for, or which children's trust you work for. Okay. Now I'm going to hand over to John Paul now to talk a little bit more about the hub side of the funnel, as it's known, and the sort of comparisons with data and that sort of thing, so that you can benchmark yourself. If you want to do your bit, John Paul.
Yeah, that's a brilliant introduction. Thank you. And also, my goodness, you know a lot about events. That was very rich. This is recorded and we'll be sending around the information after the event. So this is something that we've been working on now for quite a few weeks. And thank you very much to the teams at Hertfordshire and Surrey for letting us use their real data to put into this. The thinking is that we often struggle to make the business case for foster care recruitment marketing budget, and when I'm talking particularly about paid media. And there's lots of reasons for that, which I won't go into. But this is our effort as a hub, as a group, to start recording systematically data about our paid media efforts and how those are turning into inquiries, approvals, and so on. Now, this isn't about shaming or celebrating anyone in particular. It's just that when you record the data in a systematic way, it's a really good way to start a conversation. And we've come up with this basic approach, which gives us across the hub overall numbers, so nationally, and then individually we can see different councils and what they're doing and their rates in relation to the average. Now, at the moment, this isn't going to be particularly interesting, but once we've got a lot of people in the hub sharing their data, we'll start to be able to see what the national averages are and how each council compares to that. We think this can be really useful for showing to directors and people holding the purse strings about what you're doing in comparison to councils like yourselves, where there might be bottlenecks in the process, and to give you a constant sense of what's going on. For example, last year, many people saw a bit of an uptick in terms of applications during lockdown, and this year it's been held quite back. To avoid that scrutiny of, well, is it something that you're doing that's wrong? This will help you show, actually, no, everyone's down, inquiries are down, approvals are down, and you'll have this sort of hub resource to sort of make the case for marketing and that sort of comparative benchmarking. But be really careful though, it's not about duplication or competition. It's much more about having conversation and having data from other places. So my ask today to everybody is, if you're happy to start seeing where you are in comparison to people like you, all I need is the number of inquiries, and that's sort of starting the approval process, and the number of approvals per month since January this year. And we will fill in something like this, where you might actually have impressions, interactions, inquiries and approvals, but I really only need these two bits of data in the first place. Next week, we should have Dorset and Milton Keynes and Sutton in data in the group, so it will start to get more comprehensive. I wouldn't say comprehensive, but it's not just two participants. And if we could have in the hub 20, 30, 40 councils sharing this data in a systematic way, it'll create a resource that's really valuable for everyone to look at. Apologies, there's this wonderful thing that Zoom does. There we go. Now, I just wanted to touch on something really simple. I'm not going to go into detail on this at all. But a lot of people have been asking about what is paid and what you should be doing, or what works well. And so I've just created this very simple diagram, which can everyone see that? John, has it shared? Yep. This is about looking at the various levels of marketing and where you can and should be looking. So we have level 1, which is search and remarketing. Search, diverting people away from IFAs. Remarketing, once someone's been to you, nudging them in to turn up to an event. That should be always on. And if you're encountering any barriers in doing that, we'd like to help you get through them. That would be, working with your web team, whatever. If there's any blocker to those things being on, this is absolutely essential to reducing cost per interaction. Then there's a layer above, which once you've got layer 1 in place, you then put on intelligent prospecting. So that's about finding people out there, building awareness, nudging people into the top of the funnel. And if you've got that layer in place, then there's sort of level 3, which is the big push. And sometimes people go to level 3 first before having those things in place. So with the hub, that's what we're trying to encourage. Get the basics in place and absolutely right, and then build up over time. Just to reiterate for the new people here, the form that we built, that we're sharing with everyone, has now been tailored to a couple of hub participants, and this form is now live and being used. So we'll have data coming back on how that works. And we're also now starting to promote actively using remarketing this site, which gently puts across the case for fostering with your council rather than with an IFA. So hopefully all of these assets are pretty useful to you. Another thing to be aware of, I'm just going to quickly stop sharing and restart to look at this other bit that we've got. So if you're not aware, Westco have created a complete creative deck, which you can license and have tailored to your area. We're using this in remarketing in Dorset and Milton Keynes now, so we'll have data showing how it works. But if you want a link to this, again, we'll send it around after the meeting so you can see what's there. So more than happy to share all of this with everybody, and particularly we'd like you to, if you're comfortable with it, to start sharing those inquiries and those approvals data by month, because that will make this hub really, really useful over time. It's not going to give us huge insights in the first stage, but if we measure consistently together, we'll have a huge competitive advantage over the IFAs, which means that we can get better at what we do and have that sort of collective intelligence. That's me whizzing through everything I had to say today. Are there any questions? Yes, excellent question from Brian. So we're going to refine, this is about, what are you saying is an inquiry? Is that just an initial contact, or is that someone starting the process? At the moment, it's someone starting the process, but we might add another layer into the funnel called contact or something like that. It seems that people have different words for it in different places, and we need to be clear about that. But at the moment, inquiry is someone embarking on the approval process in some shape or form. It's just really important that we can establish these benchmarks from general interactions through to that process, and then for you to see where there might be issues. Now, those issues could be of your own choosing in terms of who you're selecting, who you're going after, but at least it gives you that ability to benchmark against others and see what's happening. I think if there's no more questions, that's it from me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, Rachel's put, she hasn't managed that in over 6 years together working in our forum. Yeah, in the West Midlands forum. Yeah,
I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up.
Yeah, the conclusion we came to is there's two very distinct things. There's kind of like a request for information, and then there's like a serious kind of intent, which a lot of people, as you said, I think it was for Surrey, it's the actual registration of interest, or like a formal application that, yes, I want to be a foster carer. And obviously there's a huge kind of gap in between that, where somebody's asked for a brochure, and then that time can be years before they then actually start and properly apply. In an ideal world, we'd be able to measure requests for information, ROI or application, and then approvals, and those three things would be the things that would really give us a lot of insight, not just across the whole, but for each individual authority that takes part as well. But as it stands at the moment, it's the inquiry data that we're getting from each authority, how they define an inquiry.
And we will tighten that up and get better with it. And the other bit as well, ideas like putting one of the remarketing ads being your happy fostering team. I can't remember exactly what the wording is, but that's brilliant. So we should take that idea, apply it, and then share how it works over time, because we're going to be able to measure which ad generates the inquiry fairly soon. And so that will mean that we can measure end to end. And it just means that IFAs won't be doing this with each other. So if we can do it, we can get better and better and share with this group that creative works, this presentation works, this approach works, and just hone and hone over time. And that central measurement is absolutely key.
Great. Yeah, is there anyone else have any more questions before we finish?
Got 9 minutes back.
Yeah, another early finish, which is good. Yeah, what we'll do is everybody that's attended today, obviously we'll follow this up with an email containing all the links. When the recording of this is available, we'll send that as well, just so you've got everything there, including the link to the Facebook group. If you're not on that, like I say, it's really, really, really useful. And then obviously, if you've got any questions, you need any help with anything, we're always available for a chat. So I think that is it. And yeah, there's no more questions come in. Like I say, if you do have any questions, just drop us an email and we'll do everything we can to help you. So we look forward to seeing you. The next event will be the last Tuesday in November, provisionally. As soon as that's booked in and everything, I'll send out the invite for that one as well. And like I say, that will be on the importance of remarketing. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming, and we shall see you in 3 weeks' time, hopefully.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.